Hey, tubers, welcome back for another adventure. Oh, wait a minute, that's not my line. Sorry about that. I get a lot of guys ask me what channels I watch on YouTube, who I follow, and who I subscribe to. And I subscribe to a guy by the name of Harvey Spooner. He's in the state of New York. And a lot of people think I have a lot of bikes. I've got somewhere between 100 and 200 bikes, these little horizontal Hondas. If you think I have a lot of stuff, you need to go check out Harvey Spooner. I'll try and put a link in the description of this video. Harvey has a bunch of these little horizontal Hondas, but he also has just a slew of ATVs, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, those sorts of things. And a lot of his videos revolve around those more than they do bikes. But Harvey opens up every one of his videos with that tagline. And so anyway, he's a fun guy to watch. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually not going to really work too much on this bike, but I've got a subscriber by the name of Mike Brown, and he is building a Honda CL70, and that's what we've got on the table here. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of walk around, and then we'll see if it will start. This particular bike is a Honda CL70 K0. I'm sorry. Let me back up. I just misspoke. It's a K1. Honda made 4 different models of the CL70. K0, K1, K2, and K3. The first one came out in, I think, '69, the K0. I don't have one of those. I've never been lucky enough to find one. It has a headlight that's similar to a CT70 that has its fiberglass with the speedometer incorporated into it. I'm not exactly sure what colors it came in. Maybe red and blue. I think it always had a gray tank. But like that, I've never had one, so I'm not super familiar with them. This is a K1. I've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 of these. And this is a bike that I put a life in. I bought it as a roller. The K1s they are this burnt topaz orange, and I think, are they red and blue? I think it might come in 3 colors. I'm not 100% sure. But they have the stripes across the top of the tank. The K2s are real similar. I think the same colors, only they moved the stripe down here. And then the K3s, they went with a completely different, I think the shape of the tank is different, and the logo. K3s are just a little bit different. So this is a bike. I built this in around 2010, 2011. The last time I tagged it was 2014. Little bit of a story. Most of you know I'm in central Indiana. In 2013, 14, my father-in-law and mother-in-law were starting to have some health issues. My wife and I spent a lot of time in Arizona taking care of them. And so the last summer I tagged this was 2014, and then I spent most of that year in Arizona helping my father-in-law, and he passed away in January of 2015. And unfortunately, I put this bike away when I went to Arizona and never really pulled it back out or rode it again. 4,280 miles. I probably put somewhere 800 to 1,000 miles on this bike, I would say, in the few years I rode it. As you can see, I didn't clean it up or anything. I just literally took the bike as I got it and stuck an engine in it. It needs fork gators, and it needs a really good cleanup. I think I started this bike last about 4 years ago, around 2017 maybe, when I bought the shop that I film all my stuff in here. I bought this about 4 years ago, And I think when I moved a lot of my bikes here, I think I started this bike then, but it's been a good 4 years since it started. But anyway, Mike is building one of these. He had a couple questions. I need to get the battery is behind this little cover right here. And I'm going to be surprised if there's a battery in this. There isn't. So, Mike, I think, yeah, just trying to refresh my memory. The back of this cover had some kind of bracketry on it, and I cut it off to be able to clear the battery, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going a lot off of memory from a long time ago, so if I'm speaking incorrectly, I'm sorry. But and then I buy just the smallest 12-volt battery at AutoZone. It's 4L something or other, and it fits. I think I had to turn it sideways to fit in there, but it will go, and you can put the cover on. Mike, I have the coil mounted. That's what this little acorn nut is here. You can't see it, but that's, if you look down through, you can see the coil through that slot. You have to install it before you put the engine in, because the only way to access underneath there is from up underneath. So, but I like these bikes, the CL70s and the S65s. They're a little bit bigger. They got 17-inch rims and tires on them. So, you know, guy my size, a little on the heavy side, you don't look quite as much like a circus bear as I do on the on like the Trail 70s and stuff. Even though I much more enjoy the Trail 70s, these bikes are a little bit more my size. Obviously, they were meant to be ridden on the street. They've got, you know, turn signals and all the stuff to make them street legal. I think Mike asked me about the horn, and this kind of goes along with any of the horns on these old Honda bikes. Even if it was originally 6-volt like this one is, you can keep the original horn with the 12-volt engine. Actually, it works really, really well. You don't want to probably lay on it for a long time. I'm not sure what that would do to it, but I use the original horn. This bike just had, you know, different, had to put 12-volt bulbs in it. I put one of the aftermarket wiring harnesses in it, you know, like I do in my other videos. This will kind of show you just how much longer the life-in is over a stock engine. This bracket originally should be parallel with that shock. And because the life-in engine has a little bit longer stroke and bore, but the stroke, so it moves the head a little bit farther forward by that much. That's what it is now, 5/8, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. But it's nice with these bikes that you can, because this thing just pivots, you know, it just bolts up just fine. There's no modifications need to be made, unlike a Trail 70, you know, it has just like a tab like this that you have to adjust to get it to bolt right. So anyway, like I said, this one's kind of rough. I thought maybe we'd just see if it would start today. It's been a long time since I've tried to start it. I'm gonna move my stand here. Gonna make some noise. When I rolled it in here, I could hear fuel sloshing around in the tank. So it's got something in it. But let's first see if we can't catch some of it. I forgot to get a screwdriver to pull that. Pull this line off of there. Oh, that actually came off really easy. Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay, we got flow. doesn't look horrible. All right, so we're gonna let that fill up with some fuel. Let's take the plug out of it. And let's just double check and make sure we've got spark before we get too involved here. You can tell I apparently I didn't have the spark plug wire tied off at first because I toasted the wire on the exhaust, and you can see where I just put some exhaust wrap on that to keep the heat down. This was built early on when I started building bikes with aftermarket engines. That 2008, 9, 10 area, somewhere around in there is when I kind of started using the aftermarket engines. Let's see. All right, so it's got a key. Oh yeah, we got fire. Yep, we got plenty of juice. Like I said, the engine doesn't really have a whole lot of miles on it, less than 1,000, so. Well, I'm glad to see the carburetor's not leaking. Hopefully the float's not stuck. All right, get you backed up here. Some of this junk. All right, what are you guys looking at? Yeah, you're looking at it. All right, so we'll give it, pull the choke, got the key on. Well, holy cow. She wants to go. That's pretty incredible. That bike has sat untouched for a good 4 years. I think it was 4 years in February, because I bought the building in February of 17 and moved it in here, and I haven't touched it since. I like the sound of it. I don't know if there's baffles out of that exhaust or... Well, that was much easier than I even anticipated. I've robbed the pod filter off of it at some point, so I need to put another filter on it. You know what, I should have taken... Yeah, I'm going to shut you off for a second. I'm going to get some tools. I'm going to take that side cover off because I think Mike was curious on the gear ratio, the sprockets that I'm running on this. So let me get a couple tools, raise the table back up, and I'll be right back. All right, Mike, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the stock rear sprocket on CL70 was like 45 or 47 teeth or something like that. It uses the exact same sprocket setup that a CT70 does, with the 4 posts on the back and little rubber, dampeners in there. So on the back, this is a 38 tooth 3-speed CT70 sprocket that I put on the back. And I can't remember what's on the front, so we're going to have to... But apparently I've got that son of a gun tight. Yeah, that one came out. See if this one will come down. There she goes. Probably don't need to be that tight. That was in my youth. I cranked down on it, I guess. Oh, don't tell me I gotta take the gear shifter off to get the cover off. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can get a light here. Hang on just a second. Well, I gotta find a light that works. All right. Hopefully it'll be printed on it. It's not. Not that I can see. All right, hang on a second. I'm gonna have to get a wrench, and we're gonna pull that gear shifter off there so we can get the cover the rest of the way off. All right, so I got the bolt out of that. Okay, what we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I've got a 17T on the front and a 38T on the rear. And this has a 60 mile an hour speedometer. I can't quite reach up there to... I believe it's a 60 mile an hour speedometer. Yeah, it looks like it is. And my recollection is that, it'll peg that speedometer. I'm not going to say it's going to go much over 60, right at 60. And cruise is pretty nice at around 50. It's just a fun little bike for running around town. Get out open road. It might not be the fastest thing in the world, but it's still got enough juice, and the gearing is well enough that, in low gear, you can still goose the throttle and do wheelies and stuff, which is fun. The only thing I don't like about this, if I remember right, it's got one of those internal throttles. Yeah, you can see that's the throttle cable coming out of the handlebars right there. And I used the original, let's let the table down here. I used the original setup on the handlebars, and I'm not a fan. It doesn't snap back. And I never could get it to snap back. See, it just stays kind of like a CT70 does. I'm not a big fan of those internal throttle cables, but if I probably were to redo this bike, I would ditch that for an aftermarket unit that actually snaps. The reason I left it is this switch right here. On like a CT70, early CT70 anyway, maybe most of them. Sorry, had someone walk into the shop, so I shut it down for a second. I was talking about this switch. I kept this switch because it actually has an off, low, and high. And I started to say that on like CT70s, they don't have a on-off with a switch. It was the second position of the key or whatever, and so this one, I like the switch because you could turn the headlight off up here and not have to use it if you just run around the yard or whatever. So, and then this one just has the turn signals and the horn. This bike was originally a manual, so that's what the purchase was for the clutch lever. Now I put just a semi-automatic in it, and so... It is a tad bit chilly outside here in Indiana today, but you know what? I think put my big boy pants on, and let's see if it'll fire back up, and we'll just take it outside and pop a couple wheelies and call this video done. So let me get set up and get you guys outside. I mentioned the sticky throttle on this thing. The other thing I'm just now remembering about this that I didn't like was the amount of play that you have before the throttle actually does anything. There. So, you know, we turned it right there. Turned it considerable amount, so it's just not a desirable setup. You know, look, I can move it this much and it doesn't affect. Yeah. One of these days we're going to tear this bike down and we're going to change that. The sun is shining out here, but it's like mid-30s and windy, so it's a tad bit chilly. Gotta get her warmed up. I wonder if we're running out of gas. It kind of stalls. Well, got plenty of gas. Oh, my wheelie game is weak. All right, enough of that. It must need it still needs a little bit of a carburetor clean because it bogs as soon as I give it throttle. Try and goose it to pull the front end up. You see here? We done. Guys, thanks for joining me. Hopefully, Mike, that helps you with getting yours put together, answer some of the questions that you had. They are a fun little bike to ride. I know you're going to enjoy it. So, appreciate everybody following along. And like I said, I'll put a link to Harvey Spooner's YouTube page on the description. You guys go give him a follow too. Everybody have a great day.